Welcome to Collaboration Conversations. Some days things don't click the way they should there when you start to speak. But welcome to Collaboration Conversations. I'm your host, Regina Partain Bergman, CEO of Bridgeport Strategy and co-founder of the CEO Holy Grail. I am delighted to have this opportunity today to introduce you to some folks who are new to my world, most of them. And so I want to share them with you. We're going to have a great conversation about collaboration today. As you know, if you've watched the show before, we always have a guest co-host, and I'm excited to introduce our guest co-host today. But first, let me just say welcome, Dr. LeSantha. How are you today?
I am great, Regina. Very excited to be here with my guests as well.
Awesome. Well, we are excited to have you here today and to be sharing with us your thoughts on collaboration and to learn from each of these folks that you've brought to the show. So let me just tell folks a little bit about you. Dr. LeSantha is a concierge osteopathic physician and founder of Aviana. Did I say that correctly? Aviana Wellness Institute. So, Dr. LeSantha, would you take a moment, tell us a bit about your journey, who you serve, and why that's important to you?
For me, my journey has brought me to a point where I really want to serve a large global community. So at Aviana Wellness Institute, my patient panel is going to be called the 100 Club because amongst my immediate small group of patients, I want to keep it small and create transformational healthcare for a small community. But for me, it is so important for people to understand and to learn about their own health, their own personal potential for their own growth. So in addition to my small patient panel, I'm also doing things like this, collaborative podcasts, other podcasts, TV appearances, and a lot of philanthropic and community events to help people learn and understand about the health and that you don't need to be wealthy to be healthy.
I love that. I love that statement. You don't need to be wealthy to be healthy. That is so true. And so often we forget that or we don't know it. And so kudos to you for taking that role in society and helping to educate people in that. Thank you so much. Dr. LeSantha, you have brought an amazing group of panelists to the show today, and I can't wait to meet them all. We've had a little bit of chit chat behind the scenes, but I'm really interested to learn more about each of them. Would you please introduce each one individually, have them share about their journey, who they serve, and why?
Absolutely. Let's start off with Claudia, Dr. Claudia Beanie. She's the founder of the House of Shine. So Claudia, please go ahead, take the stage.
All right. Thank you so much I love being here this morning. So yes, my name is Claudia Beanie. I'm the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called the House of Shine. My background leading up to that, I like to say that I've been collaborating and working with people in a community format, if you will, since I was a camp counselor at a young age, and then an RA in college. And then I spent many years working on college campuses around the country, always through all of these various roles, collaborating, whether it was with faculty and other staff on the college campus, even as an RA, collaborating with the other 75 residents who were living on my floor to make big things happen. And so really this work that I do with my nonprofit is just an extension of all of that. The House of Shine is really designed to strengthen community by building leaders who are self-aware, self-confident, and resilient. And because we are so community-based, everything we do essentially is a collaboration between we, the House of Shine, and the community members that we work with in North Texas. It really is at the heart of everything we do. And I guess the last thing I would say is that the House of Shine itself is built on the premise that inside every person is not one, but many contributions waiting to be made over their lifetime. And so harnessing that energy and unearthing what it is that people bring to the community is really, in my mind, kind of the ultimate collaboration.
Excellent.
Awesome. Keisha, let's hear from you next.
All right, so yes, good morning. My name is Keisha. I'm the owner of I Am Radio and also the founder and curator of the Arlington Merchant Mix. So I actually started my radio show about 4 years ago, right at the end of the pandemic. So what we saw during the pandemic is people having to be creative with how to bring in new forms of revenue. People were being laid off or just completely lost their jobs. And we had time to sit back and kind of get bored and say, hey, what am I passionate about, right? And how can I make money from that to provide for my family? So towards the end of that, I'm like, hey, we need to create a platform that helps people tell the story behind their brand, because people buy from who they know, like, and trust. So if we can tell people who they are, why they're passionate and motivated about their business, then that'll start building trust with new customers. And through that, as I started building this network of new business owners, I'm like, hey, we got to take this off air, be boots on the ground, and create a centralized space for these business owners to sell their products. Because again, people were selling their products online. They did not have a brick and mortar. So I created the Arlington Merchant Mix for people to get out back in the community, recreate what it looks like for communal engagement and sociability. And so we've curated that. Mr. Yu has even joined as a partner over the past, I think, year and a half now, or past year. And it's just grown and grown. And we're just very excited to, the original idea was the business owner. That was our target audience. But once we started seeing who was coming through the Arlington Merchant Mix, it created a stage for people to come out and entertain people. So having guest speakers, having entertainment such as sound bath healing and spoken word and music artists. I mean, it really created this powerhouse for us to come together for a bigger purpose and to have a good time and to give back to the community. So I've been very, very excited about that. And throughout these 4 years, it has offered me other opportunities. So opportunities to network and give back to nonprofit organizations, help identify and contribute, and also award or honor our business owners within our community, for profit and nonprofit. Every event, we pick 2 nonprofit or for-profit businesses to honor with the Community Impact Award. Every November, we've done 2 so far. We do the International Men's Day celebration. We just honored 12 men that are making an impact in our community. And then in March, we do International Women's Day. So we're going to honor 12 women that are making an impact in our community. And it just really, really brings awareness to those businesses, but it also highlights the importance of giving people their flowers. And it really makes people happy. It really lets them know, like, hey, what I'm doing is not in vain. I am noticed and I am making an impact. So that has been my life's work. I do a lot of mentorship, entrepreneurship, mentorship. I've been an operations manager for about 14 years. And so I'm really all about process ownership and process management and helping scale or cultivate that business acumen piece with our entrepreneurs that are early in the game in their journey. So it's been very exciting.
That does sound super exciting. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Yu, tell us about you.
Hey, again, good morning, everyone, and thank you guys again for having me on. I'm so ecstatic to just have the opportunity to share this platform with so many leaders and just people that's, putting in effort to just make a difference in the community. I'm so excited to be able to share my story and my influence across the industry. I got discovered by agent representation at the age of 15, so I've been in the fashion industry for over 25 years. From working with different celebrities, producing shows, managing artists, doing photography, building out marketing material for artists, and just building out portfolios. And that kind of just spiraled over to working more in the business sector with different entrepreneurs, business owners, different executives, and just being somewhat of a connector with my influence and just making people more conscious of just being more intentional with their efforts in business. And like Keisha said, we've had the opportunity to meet and really scale out the Merchant Mix, which is a great platform for, entrepreneurs and vendors and the entire industry to really come together and just build further resources and build more connections. So I'm just so excited to actually have that influence and have that experience where I can have an audience that's followed my journey. And not only with being in the industry, I'm also a foster care advocate. Uh, I aged out of foster care at the age of 18, and through my efforts of networking and connecting with so certain other professionals and entrepreneurs, they have heard my story, embraced my story, and also connected me to other resources to be able to go into these rooms and speak on different stages and just be of an impact with my story to foster care children, parents, and other caseworkers. Because the thing is, a lot of them, even though a lot of them may work in that realm, a lot of them never lived it. So by me being able to come in and being able to be vulnerable and share my experience in a way where it can relate to people in that realm, it just gives people insight on just being able to bridge the gap and better connect with the children. Because at the end of the day, I think that's what it's mostly about, just being able to understand how to help them and just, curve their mindset or just making better decisions to avoid further down trouble. And I think a lot of it comes from just being misunderstood and being able to be that voice for them. So I feel like that's my life's purpose now. Even though I did a lot of things in the fashion community, in the film industry, I feel like God was building my story to have this voice and to be this influence, to be able to operate in such a higher purpose. So I thank him for my story now, because when I was going through it at the time as a child, I thought it was to punish me. I thought it was one of the hardest things to endure. But to be on the other side of it and to realize that God had greater purpose for my life all along, and to be able to make this impact on the stages that I have, is just incredible. And to meet people like with Dr. LeSantha, it's just an amazing opportunity. And I think it's how things just lined up with being in the right places at the right time and just operating in faith. And to have this opportunity to share this stage with y'all is just incredible. And I think it just extends the impact. It extends the influence. So I'm blessed to be in this position. And I really hope and pray that this is able to go further than just this live streaming. So thank you guys again for having me.
That's inspiring. And, one thing that I think is a common thread amongst all of us here is the fact of our stories from whenever, whether it's childhood, whether it's, through our years, it's our stories that have brought us to this place, and this wanting to share, to collaborate, and to really make an impact in the world. So on that note, Chase, please go ahead. Tell us about you.
My name is Chase Bergner, and I am the owner and founder of Momentum Proactive Healthcare and Fitness in Arlington. And I also have a nutrition supplement company called Pothos Nourishment and Lifestyle. I did not go to Harvard. I actually had a very rough upbringing. I was abandoned by my mother when I was about 7 years old. And I was raised by my father, who was traveling all the time. And I was starting to get into a lot of trouble when I was young. I was trying to get attention at school. I just wanted to be heard. I wanted somebody to see me, to acknowledge me. So I started getting in trouble through grade school, going into middle school. And luckily at the end of 5th and 6th grade, I got into martial arts. So martial arts was where I kind of got my start in physical fitness and training myself. And that was my outlet. And up until about 17 years old, it was great. It kept me on track. I did better in school, and I decided to quit. And once I quit, I just started hanging out with the wrong kids, again, seeking that attention, because my mother was not in my life, and I just needed that attention. So I ended up getting in trouble. I ended up being in a juvenile institution when I was from 16 and a half to about 18. And I was one of the only white males in there. So it was mostly African-American and Hispanic. And I got my butt kicked for like the first almost year in there. It was It was terrible. I just wanted to be bigger. I wanted to be stronger. And that was where my obsession came with, like, I've got to make myself better. I didn't like feeling vulnerable. And sooner or later, I ended up kind of finding myself down there. I had a good couple mentors. One who's a doctor now, his name was Dwayne Sims. He really got me into writing and reading, and he encouraged me to read. He would take me twice a month to go and speak at a coffee house just to read poetry. So Dwayne got me really into writing poetry. And I ended up getting out of there and getting my getting my high school education. And I jumped right into studying kinesiology and working in a gym. And I just started to realize that all these good habits that I was creating were bleeding through to the rest of my life. So I was building discipline. I was building grit. I was building resilience. I had a vision and a goal.
And folks, we're having a little
professional training studio when I was 23 years old. I had 3 partners. I had no clue what I was doing in business. By the grace of God, I was able to end up getting rid of my partners and paying everything off. And I was able to do that through these habits that we've established through just what we preach is fitness. But fitness is just the base. We work with philosophy. We change habitual processes with people on how to actually get them to change what they're doing outside of the facility. So we've created like a force field analysis where people can really figure out, okay, where are their weaknesses and what are the resources to fix where they're getting those frictions at? And then how do we align that with their nutrition, their training, and teaching them how to take care of themselves in more of a proactive healthcare approach long-term. So I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be here. Like I said, it's been the school of hard knocks for me. I'm 34 years old now. I've owned 2 companies. We're grossing over $1 million a year. And it has not been easy. And I can tell you guys, you usually have to sacrifice your own to be able to grow. And that was where I really found that I excelled at. I started building up other trainers, teaching them how to speak to people, how to communicate properly, how to address these habitual processes. And now we've been able to help a lot of people. In fact, I had the opportunity to train Dr. LeSantha's husband, Morali. In fact, he just left here. I waved to him as he was walking out. And he's had an amazing experience with us, and we're just giving that gift of taking care of yourself and developing yourself and using fitness as that starting stone to step on. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and share my story. There's so much that goes into it. I don't want to take the mic for too long. Just to add a few things, I was a professional bodybuilder for many years. I was a fitness model. I've been on multiple magazines and books, and you start to realize those things it's all about you. So, now I've really dedicated my life to this gift that God gave me and giving it to his people and teaching them the things that were able to get me to where I'm at and the things I know that are going to get me to where I need to go.
amazing. Dr. LeSantha, you have brought together an amazing group of people here, and I can't wait to see where this conversation goes. So as I listen to each of you and how you are gathering people, how you're giving back in your communities, how you each have a passion and a purpose and know where you want to go and what it is that you want to do for people. My question for you to start this discussion is, what would you say to our listeners who might be sitting out there saying, I love what they've done, but how can I do this in my community, in my group, in my world, if you will? How can I do this? Because there are people out there who would love to duplicate what you are doing, okay, and love to make the impact that you're making. So let's talk about that.
I think that's an awesome question. If I don't, I would love to start it off.
Please.
Because I'm a person that I had to do a lot of inner work to find my purpose. And like I said earlier, going through my hardships, and I think we all have been through hardships, and the hardest thing to realize is in seeing the outcome of it is why you're going through it. So I had to dig really deep to figure out what my desires were, what my true purpose was. And once I was able to do that inner work on myself and to find out what my purpose was, my bigger purpose, because for a long time, I thought it was the fashion stuff. I thought it was the modeling. I thought it was, you know what I'm saying, the being in the magazines. I thought it was being in the movies. I thought it was all of those things. And I was happy with those things. But realizing even in that, I was still being developed for a greater purpose, right? And while I went through all of those things, and while I hated being in foster care, when I aged out of it, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to relive those hard moments. I didn't want to share it with nobody, because when I was in it, even my peers made it hard for me to be in it. So when I aged out of it, I just went hard at my career, work. And God was like, okay, well, I let you do your desires, but what about now? What about what I called you to do? Right. So all of a sudden, when I submitted myself to that, my true purpose emerged. Right. It was like, now that you have a voice, now that you're this influencer, now that you have this background, he was building my confidence to be on these stages. Because I don't know if you guys ever did public speaking and all of these things on these stages. It's not easy. It's not easy being vulnerable and telling your story in front of a crowd of strangers. It takes a little practice. It takes a little rehearsing. It takes a little, it takes a little going through some things. So to be on these stages and give impact on a greater purpose, I had to do the inner work. And then I had to find these safe spaces, because my story is such a sensitive story that I didn't want to just tell it in front of anybody, because some people can hear your story and it don't resonate, or some people will use it against you. But once I was able to find these safe spaces, it made me comfortable with opening myself up, opening my heart up, opening my soul up to be able to pour into other people. And that's when I realized that everything that I had been through, it wasn't for me. It was for somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized this is purpose work that I'm doing. Right. And people feel that it resonates with people. And I had to get myself around other people who's doing purpose work as well. And I feel like all of you guys are doing that. So the impact just hits harder. It resonates more. It goes further than we can even imagine, because I love Chase's story, being vulnerable and knowing, but no, it's like, I went through that, but no, I'm going to continue to fight, because I know my life has a greater purpose. This is not for me. I'm not stopping here. I'm not going to let this defeat me. I'm going to take my pain and use it for purpose to help somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's really where it comes from. And that's really what it takes. You have to do that inner work and find out what is your true purpose. And sometimes your purpose is not what you're doing on a job. Your job is just to pay your bills and so you can survive. But what is your purpose work?
Good point.
And I'll leave it there.
Very good. Thank you.
You know, to that, I, as I mentioned, I think all of us have went back and thought about our stories and gone through our stories. And for me, I realized it started when I was 2 years old. When I was 2 years old, I saw a commercial on TV for Kit Kat bars. I threw a tantrum. I need that Kit Kat bar. And my grandfather bought me a whole box. I loved it. That's when my weight issues started. That's kind of when my vulnerability started. I struggled with my weight throughout childhood into adulthood. And when I was 4 years old, unfortunately, my grandfather committed suicide. Still very vivid memory in my mind. And that had happened shortly after that. My grandmother died of cancer. My parents were caregivers for her. My brother was diagnosed with epilepsy, and I became his caregiver as we were growing up. And my father had a massive heart attack, and it was the first time that my parents had ever left us, because my mom went to the hospital to take care of my dad. And as I went back and thought about my story, and not only that, 1991, that's also when this song Heal the World by Michael Jackson had been released. And with all of that went on in my life, as I thought back at my story, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor from a very young age. But I didn't know why, and I knew I wanted to help people. But if somebody had asked me to really verbalize, what is it about being a doctor? I knew it went beyond helping people, but I didn't know much more than that. And as I started thinking about my story, and Heal the World became the anthem of my life, it's thinking about those experiences at such a young age that really molded who I became, who I wanted to be. And then the understanding, this community knows I had a job that I absolutely loved and my patient panel that I absolutely loved. But I had chosen to leave because I felt like my purpose was not being fulfilled. My purpose to be able to heal a community beyond my personal reach, that goes far beyond the people that I can see, that I can sit in front of. And it's still emotional to think that I chose to leave that, but I'm so optimistic at all of the opportunities to heal people that I don't see, that I don't hear every day, that I have no idea who they are, but it just means so much to me to be able to do that. So really, I think for me, it was going back through my story, going back through my life and reflecting on some of the things that we don't want to, or we don't realize what impact it has had, but going through it kind of in a consecutive order and saying, oh, wow, this is where it came from. So now I know where I need to move forward. And so that's really how I was able to expand my purpose, to understand my purpose, and one of the things that brought us together today.
Yeah, excellent. Keisha?
Yeah, to go back to your question is, how can someone say, hey, I want to give back? Like I see so many people giving back, right? We have social media, people are posting and, showing the content of what they're doing. And they're like, oh, that looks so cool. I wish I could do that. Well, you can, right? And what I always tell some of my mentees is, you can have 5 people in the same room that are selling the same thing. What is going to set you apart? And what's going to set you apart is the story, is the passion, is the motivation. We're all moved by different things. What is it that sets you apart? And so what I tell people is, how do you know what path to take? I tell people, don't show up for everything, because you're going to burn yourself out. You have to find your niche. You have to understand, like Mr. Yu said, you have to look inward. Look at what you're naturally good at. Me, I love to talk and I love people. So radio worked out perfectly for me. I didn't go try to be anything else, right? I found out that I'm really good with bringing people and passion together and very well spoken. I can use my influence to get people into a room. I've done marketing promotions for businesses all across Arlington and DFW before I got into radio. I just did it behind the scenes for different clubs, restaurants, whatever. But I was not a front-facing person. I just went to work every day and it's like, hey, Keisha, can you put together this marketing portfolio for me? I'm like, yeah, but it was always behind the scenes. But when COVID hit, and I'm working from home, thank God, I was still able to work, I did start asking those questions. What is my passion? What is my purpose outside of what I love to do? And that's work. I love to work. But I was like, I have to utilize everything that I have learned, all the people that I do know, all these rooms I have been in. Let me use my voice and my gift of gab, and, let me use all of the tools that I have been trained on in the workplace and my career path there, to be able to bring that unique perspective outside to the community. When it comes to entrepreneurship today, especially in underserved communities, there's a lack of knowledge base. There's a lack of business acumen. There's a lack of funding, and it's due to a lack of knowledge and resources. And so my purpose has been, okay, I'm going to use everything. I think I go harder at work now than I probably have ever, because I'm like, I'm going to use all of the leadership development training, all of the process scope mapping training. I'm going to get everything that I can from this successful company. Obviously, something's working, so I'm going to mirror that, break it down into layman's terms, and I'm going to provide that foundation and blueprint to our community, right? We need to do it through mentorship. We need to create the workshops. We do need to do the seminars and the summits. And like Mr. Yu said, create that safe space, because it all looks good on Facebook. It all looks good on social media. But when we get into these safe spaces, we understand that we're not where we're supposed to be or where we can be. And that's where that conversation starts. So to give back and say, how can I give back? Find out what you're naturally good at and go find an organization. Go. It doesn't have to be grandiose. You can give back at the church, and that's okay. All of our sphere of influences are not going to look the same. And I think people really, sometimes really people feel bad about that. Like, hey, I can't go do that because I don't have the following. I don't have the target audience. I don't know what that is. You can go give back to a neighbor, and that's just as much influence as somebody that has it on social media. I think social media has really blown it out of proportion of what power and impact influence is. But really, for someone getting into it, go volunteer. Go volunteer and see what works for you and what lights the fire in your soul about what you're giving back to. And then once you set an intention saying, I want to do this, God, show me the way. Once you start putting yourself out there, God is going to give you the affirmations, the little nudges. Yes, go this way. Keep going, keep going. And then as you become obedient to that, then those doors and opportunities will start opening up for you, and your story and your journey is going to look different than everyone else. But the good thing is, if you continue to be obedient, these things will naturally just start unfolding, and then we get in front of people like we see today. There is a community out here for you. Just find out what you're good at. Find your safe group of people, go to the workshops, go volunteer, and just watch it unfold naturally for you.
Excellent advice, Keisha. Thank you. Chase, your thoughts?
So to touch on that question, I think that a fool with a plan can beat a genius without one. And I think that you don't figure out what you're going to do overnight. But like Keisha stated, like even Mr. Yu stated, it's one step in front of the other. One step comes, you just worry about that next step. I've got a little story about these three little boys who were playing on a railroad track, and two of the little boys were skinny little kids, and then one was an overweight kid. And so the kids made a bet amongst each other that I bet that you can't walk down this whole railroad tie and get all the way to the end. So the first skinny kid walks up, he makes it about 20 feet down and he falls off. Then the second skinny kid gets up, he gets on that railroad tie, he goes down about 30 feet, falls off. The fat kid gets on the railroad tie. The other kids are laughing. They're like, he's not going to be able to make it. He's fat. He starts walking off and he keeps going. He gets past 20 feet. He gets past 30 feet. He's 50 feet down. He's now so far that no one can even see him. Now he's just seeing him walking. They're seeing him walking back through this sunrise. And they're saying, how in the heck did he do that? And he finally gets to the two little boys. And the two little boys said, hey, Eric, dude, how could you walk through that whole thing? Dude, you're fat. And he goes, you idiots are so focused on your feet. I'm too fat. I can't see my feet. All I can see is my destination and where I'm trying to go. So you just got to think of where you want to go.
Excellent.
And then figure out a plan on what do I need to do to start. And I can tell inside of a book. You've got to start reading and you have to start writing. And you have to record, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want to be specifically knowledgeable in? And how do you want your life to look like towards other people, towards serving people? And then it's just one step after another. And then that patience is bitter, but the fruit is sweet.
Excellent. Excellent. Love that. Claudia, can we hear your thoughts? Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry about that. I was going to say it's a little fortuitous that I'm going at the end because actually, this is really what we teach at the House of Shine is, how do you, each person, Mr. Yu and Chase and Keisha and Dr. LeSantha, all have spoken about finding their purpose, which really set them in motion. What I will say is that we ultimately, this is kind of what we teach. We talk, the word shine really is a simple acronym that you can carry around with you for your whole life. And it's really, kind of driving at what are your strengths and What are your hobbies and why does that matter? And what are your irritants and your interests? Because there's something important to be understood when you dig in on your interests and your irritants. And what are the needs that you have to feel happy and fulfilled? And most of all, and we've heard a lot about this, what are the experiences that you've had through your life, and how have those experiences helped create and shape the lens through which you see the world around you? This is your uniqueness wrapped up in what we call your shine. And then it's really a matter of figuring out how to take what you know about yourself, which everybody to a person has spoken about, and then putting that in what we refer to as that point of intersection. It's the place where your talents and your interests meet a need in the world that you care enough about that you will work toward it. So I think in some ways it's everybody here's story that we've kind of heard. They have instinctively figured out their point of intersection through the process of self-awareness. And Chase, I love that you said you have to read and you have to write. I think if there's one thing that I can attribute my path to, it has been journaling and self-reflection. In fact, when people step foot into the House of Shine, they oftentimes will love it, and they will ask, where did all of this come from? And what I will say is literally the pages of my journal, every single thing in the House of Shine is a reflection of something that at some point I wrote in my journal. And then the last two things I'll say is I think that listening is really important, listening to yourself, but also just looking around you. Keisha, I loved what you said about how what you're doing started really during COVID because you were noticing, you were listening and watching and noticing a need. And I think that's really important. And then the last thing I'll say is, though no one else said this, I think one thing that everybody here has done in some way, shape, or form is kind of set their ego aside. And so it is not so much about you and how good this is going to make you look. And, I think especially Mr. Yu kind of referenced this when he said that the first part of his life is really what has set him up to do what he's doing now. And this is egoless work. I mean, this is really not so much about how many followers do I have, but just, am I getting up every day, setting aside my ego and working towards the greater good?
Love it. I love it. I think you all described something that I like to call the ripple effect as well. That I think we're all motivated to some degree by that ripple effect, that we go out and help change one life, and that person goes out and helps change other lives, improves other lives. And that really is one of the things that fuels me, is knowing that I can be part of that ripple effect, that there are going to be thousands, hopefully tens or even hundreds of thousands of people that could be impacted by the work that I do with this one person and this one person. And, that we just work with the one, but we make a big difference in the world. I really appreciate everything you've all had to say today, and your counsel is tremendous. The advice that you've given. I think anyone watching this can at least sit down now and say, okay, here are some steps I can take. And I love that you talked, Claudia, about that intersection, the talent, where those talents and those interests meet. And we can figure that out. And we can go back in our lives and we can say, as Mr. Yu talked about, what are those experiences that I've had that have prepared me to be an instrument in the hands of the Lord, in doing his work, in going out and changing lives. You've got me emotional. That doesn't always happen in this show.
Don't do that, Mr. Yu.
Hey, this is all purpose work, is all God. I know I'm a very, very high vibrational person. And I'm so glad that God blessed me with that gift to be able to speak into people and they feel my words and they feel my passion. So for me, that's just confirmation that I'm on the right path and I'm doing the right thing. So thank you guys so much for all of your vulnerability. It's healing me as well. As much as I am a healer, you guys are healing me. And I just thank God for just this journey, man. It's amazing to see this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
I want to put two plugs, basically.
Yes, please.
Plugs. Anybody in the DFW area, I strongly suggest going to the House of Shine. You walk in and you feel the shine. You really do. It doesn't matter what age. My children love it as much as I do. And there's many things that you can just go and just consume information, or you can be hands-on and interactive. And Claudia, I believe you do work with groups, businesses as well. Am I right?
Yes.
So I really, the first time I went to take my children there, the first time I did, and actually this was before I knew that Claudia had actually founded the place. But it was very much a soul-opening experience. So I strongly recommend that. The other thing I wanted to say, Keisha had talked about this a little bit also, the impact of volunteerism. And one of the things that I'm involved with, and actually hoping to have an event in Dallas-Fort Worth area in the spring, is the fifth guest who was not able to be here is Michaela Kozlowski. She is Miss North Carolina. And the project that we're working on is called Inspire Your Desire. And it's basically trying to open people's eyes to the benefits and the impact of volunteerism, that we can learn how to reach our full potential through volunteerism, that we can be exposed to new opportunities, to new networking, to things that we never knew existed or that we value, and again, through the lens of, or through the experience of volunteerism. I find volunteerism to be tremendously helpful from the perspective of feeling like I am doing something of value for somebody else. So there's a little bit of selfishness there as well. It gives me some self-satisfaction, but also to open my eyes to other communities, to open my eyes to issues or challenges that I didn't even know existed, or I didn't know what it looked like. I might know that hunger exists, but not know what it actually really looks like. And another way to raise my impact and influence as well. So that's another point I wanted to make too.
I appreciate
I did want to add a little bit to the volunteerism. I think that is ultimately very important. And sometimes you do have to put yourself out there, because I know we all have responsibilities. We want to get paid for our efforts, but sometimes you have, and this is something that I've seen it work. Like you have to, a lot of times you have to give in order to receive, right? A lot of things that we want in life, sometimes we have to be these things, right? In order to attract it, or like as Keisha say, mirror these things. And sometimes like being able to volunteer, because I sit on the board myself for a few nonprofits, right? And I love it. I love the community coming together. I love different business owners coming together to drive a certain purpose. I host a lot of events around town, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is like, don't let the volunteerism overbear you. You know what I'm saying? Find your lane, find your niche in an area that you can be of most impact. I tell a lot of people that I work with and talk to, they on all of these different platforms of social media. And they be trying to figure out, how do I manage all of this stuff? How do you guys be posting and doing that? I said, it's not about being everywhere. It's about being the place that has the most impact, right? So it's quality over quantity. So if sometimes you can find that, sometimes it don't take but that one thing, right?
Right.
And if you focus on that, you go hard at that, you pour yourself into that, you know what I'm saying? And then sometimes those other doors will open up. Those other doors of opportunity will open up. But being able to move strategically and intentionally is one of the things that we're learning to do, especially going into this new world of being more conscious, right? Because we're leaving the 3D world, we're in a 5D world now. So it's all about moving with intention and a higher consciousness, and how you make people feel with your efforts. Because of some people, you can be doing a whole bunch of nothing and you feel burnt out, right? So it's about being able to not even just volunteer, but just apply your efforts to areas that that really matter and that has the most impact. So I love volunteering. I love helping people. And a lot of stuff I've done, I haven't got paid anything for it, but I still continue to show up because it's because of the impact. It's because of those faces and seeing how my presence impact people. So, just finding those right things and being able to put yourself out there where it kind of like just goes farther and beyond. So volunteerism is very important.
It is. And if you've not volunteered yet, then, now's a great time to start and pick one thing and work at that. You'll learn, you'll grow, you'll determine if that's the thing that you really want to do or if there's something else that you want to do. Well, folks, we are out of time and need to move into our wrap-up round. This goes so quickly. So I'm going to ask Dr. LeSantha if she will run the wrap-up round for us. And what we're looking for is a quick summation of your final thoughts on collaboration and your contact information, okay? And while you're doing that, I'll put everybody's contact information into the chat. So, Dr. LeSantha.
Yes. So just to reemphasize for me, collaboration is so important to help each individual transform and help a community transform. And it actually, this group is a great example of that, and really why I wanted to bring us all together into one space, because we all impact people's lives, people's health, people's careers in different ways to help people transform their lives, and that's so important for me. So where to find me? My website is www.lesantha.com, and you can contact me via email at dr@lesantha.com. Claudia, let's hear from you.
Okay. I think just in summary, I would say that I'm just a firm believer that the whole is always greater than the sum of its parts. And collaborating is really about identifying what somebody else or what energy there is out there and how you can harness that energy to create something greater than any one of us could do by ourselves. So I think in terms of contact, so houseofshine.com is our website. You can go to visit that. I did write a book. It's short and very accessible. It's called What's Your Shine? A Methodology for Discovering Who You Are and Why That Matters, which I think is very much in alignment with what we're talking about this morning. So maybe you can check that out. But yeah, just have really appreciated being here, Dr. LeSantha, and as well, Regina, thank you so much for the invitation to join you.
Thank you.
Keisha, how about you?
Yeah, so my final thoughts on it is that we are better together. If we have to leverage each other for a collective and shared vision and purpose, right? So you have to have the right people in position, make sure that, when you are working on a plan or when you're working on a vision, that you have the right team, the right people with the right skill sets to make sure that we are moving forward in a seamless way, and that we're able to also, if one of us fall, right, that we're able to pick them back up because we have the efficiencies, because we have the collective energy, and because we understand what's at the end of the tunnel, right? And so that is the greatest thing, is just knowing that we're not in this for ourselves or by ourselves. We are better together. As far as contact, I am a very personable person. I do have a website, but I like to talk to people. I'm a media person. Call me. I'm always available. But yeah, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. You can go to my personal Facebook. It is Keisha Sanchez, or follow me at I Am Radio on Facebook or Instagram. That's EYEAM Radio, or email me at iamradio@gmail.com.
Mr. Yu?
Awesome. That's great input with everybody. When I think about collaboration, there's two words come to my mind. Harmony and cooperation. Because without those two, I don't think that collaboration would be effective. us being able to harmoniously cooperate with each other on one specific goal, I think that is what creates the mastermind. That would create the impact of whatever outcome, right? So I think that's really what we all should focus on. We definitely should focus on identifying each other's strengths, each other's weaknesses, but at the same time, being able to be there for one another, and help each other build and develop those strengths. And as leaders, and I think that's what we all are on this call, is we're leaders. And if we're not building and developing more strong leaders, then what we're doing is failing.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Great
So,
job on that. Yes.
Absolutely. So I feel like if our efforts, being an influence, I think, because I have a lot of people asking me, like, Mr. U, what makes you an influence, or what is a thing about being an influence that means the most to you? And it's not being an influence itself; it's just being conscious of what I'm leading people to. What am I influencing people to believe? What am I influencing people to feel about themselves? Right? What am I influencing people to go out in the community to do? The Bible said you shall do greater things. So if I'm not inspiring people to be on platforms like this themselves and make an impact and speaking to somebody else's life, what I'm doing is void. You know what I'm saying? So, and I know you guys feel that same way. So I'm so excited, like I said, to be in this position, to be on this panel with you guys, and to continue to just walk in the favor of God and be that light to this world, and continue to, do my part in bringing heaven here to earth with making people more conscious that the gift and the light is within you. It's not anywhere on the outside. I think a lot of times we look outward for our deliverance and our healing and that special uncertain thing, when it really is on the inside of us the whole time. Right. So you guys can definitely follow me. I do have a website, and like Keisha, I'm a public figure. I like to be out amongst the people. I like to connect with people. Like, I have an inbox full of messages, phone full of text messages, and missed phone calls that I have to return today. It's like, and people just love to connect with me. And I love the fact that my brand is like that. People know Mr. U is authentic. Mr. U is genuine. Mr. U doesn't mind being vulnerable, because at the end of the day, like I said, it heals other people when you're an open book with what you're going through in life sometimes. So, but you can check out my website. It's I am Mr. U. That's the letter I, AM, Mr. the letter U. And also you guys can find me on pretty much all of the social media platforms as Mr. U, or you can follow my brand, Mr. U's Closet, which I do my photography, my styling, my image consulting, my event production and artist management. And my I Am Mr. U brand is basically my influence funnel, basically where I do my public speaking, my mentorship. You guys definitely check out my book, Innocence Taken, where I'm talking about where my innocence was taken as a child, process of going into foster care, so witnessing my parents fight and go through their whole separation. But and I just love to support. I love to support others, and I love that energy to be reciprocated. And again, Dr. LeSantha, I thank you so much. It was a pleasure and honor meeting you at that bed and breakfast. You and your husband, you guys have spoken into my life, just to see you guys' mission and see you guys' purpose and how you guys have overcome challenges. I thank you so much for just being who you are, and thank you all so much for just being who you are in the community and in your personal lives. It's really touching people. So thank you again for this opportunity.
It's great to have you here, Mr. U.
And last but definitely not the least, Mr. Chase Bergner.
Yes, I'm so grateful to speak with all of you guys today. Hearing all of the stories, we all have a common thread of resilience and just going with our inner gut and what our conscious is telling us to do. As far as collaboration, I think that's how you go to the next level. You can go fast alone, but you can go far with a group. You're going to get so much more information that you're going to be able to use and data when you use other brains, because I believe that none of us know everything. None of us really know what we're doing. but we continue to try to get better. We continue to like get resources where we can get information to help other people, and that's where we really shine at. I think as far as understanding what type of leadership has worked for me is servant leadership. I always do what is for the greater good of the organization. If that means that I've got to take a pay cut to make sure the organization does better, I go for it. If that means that I've got to help shadow somebody, have them learning from me, having them get paid and me not, that I'm all for it. And I think that when we're able to get rid of our egos because they're not our amigos, things happen and people come together. And it's not about, you know, a dictator or somebody who sits at the top. It's more about meritocracy, which meritocracy is a government or people that harmonize through their talents and their beliefs. I think the only way that we're ever going to be able to touch enough lives is through holding each other's hands and taking one step at a time together.
Absolutely agree. Thank you all so much for being here and for your contributions today. Dr. LeSantha, thank you for being our co-host and bringing this amazing group of panelists together. And thank you to our listeners. We're so glad that you are listening again today and watching this. Wherever you're watching it, we hope that you will subscribe to it and that you'll come back again and again to hear the amazing panels that we bring together on this show. So thank you again for joining the Collaboration Conversations. Bye for now.
Thank you.